And great pleasure right now to have joining us on the program today. Man has written a very interesting, fascinating book. It's called The Moral Molecule, The Source of Love and Prosperity. We're joined today by Paul Zak, Dr. Paul Zak, who's a professor out at Claremont Graduate University. And Paul, thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Great to be on, Doug. I'm great.
Had a chance to read through the book, and really fascinating topic. I think we've all kind of heard, or at least debated in our own minds, what causes certain behaviors, and the way you kind of lay it out here, there's more than, I guess, an emotional reason people are good or bad. There's some physical aspect to it, right? Am I right about that?
That's right. So oxytocin was a molecule that was really ignored for most of the time that we've been studying human behavior. It focuses us works as kind of a gyroscope to affect appropriate social behaviors. And so social behaviors that put other people's needs equal to our own, like the golden rule, that sustain us in social groups. And that's what oxytocin does. It makes us connect to other people, care about their welfare, at least temporarily, and treat them well. And so understanding what kind of tunes up and tunes down this system has been the focus of my laboratory and fieldwork for the last 10 years.
And primarily oxytocin, if I understood your book correctly, it's the chemical that mothers kind of give out when they give birth, right? To kind of bond with their children. Is that pretty much what it's known for?
That's right. And so, until 10 years ago, it was just thought to facilitate birth and breastfeeding. But in animals, and particularly in group living animals, it motivates kind of tolerance for burrow mates. So I had this idea that tolerance for others and treating others well kind of runs on a continuum. So I thought, well, maybe I'll study this in humans. It turned out to be that was a hard idea. Oxytocin is a very shy molecule. It's a very short half-life. It's hard to measure. It sort of coaxes out of the brain. Having said that, you don't want to leave this kind of moral behavior switch on all the way. You want to sort of turn it on and turn it off when appropriate. So it has these fine gradations of behavior. So it's not a sledgehammer. It's a subtle signal that says, hey, this is Doug. He's safe. He's never scratched me or kicked me or bit me. And so I'll let him approach. I'll interact with him, in a positive way until I get some other information suggesting I shouldn't do that.
If it was on all the time or too much of it, I guess then you would trust anybody and you wouldn't have any judgment. Would that be the downside of that?
That's right. You'd be gullible. And on the other end of the spectrum, of course, for social creatures is paranoia. And so people are paranoid. That's also not adaptive. So we have to sort of modulate between those two extremes. I should say that, this is part of a larger brain circuit. Even when we raise oxytocin pharmacologically, which we've done for hundreds and hundreds of people, they generally are not gullible. They're cognitively intact. Their brains are just saying, hey, this is a safe environment. It's okay to interact. So one way to think about oxytocin, Doug, is that this molecule that evolved to motivate mammals to care for offspring in human beings kind of works in hyperdrive. And when oxytocin is released, we treat complete strangers like family. And that can be something very beautiful. It also means we can be exploited, so we have to be careful. But it means we can actually build social relationships with everybody around the planet.
Talk a little bit about, I think you went over to, was it India to do some studying, or was it Africa? I know you went to some exotic places, right, to do some of your work?
That's right. We have done field studies around the planet. Recently I was in Papua New Guinea, which is an area that is as wild as you can get on the planet. Not only no running water, no electricity, there are 800 distinct languages in these tribes in the rainforest. And I spent a number of days in a little village there and had them do a ritual dance that they've done for literally thousands of years, and took their blood before and after. And even in these people who, as far from the Western world as you can imagine, they release oxytocin for this kind of valid stimulus for them, and they feel closer to the community. So many of the rituals that we've designed really are meant to bring us together physiologically. So I started the book, as you remember, with a wedding I attended in southern England, where I took blood from the bride and the groom at the wedding party. And what's the deal with weddings? And same thing. It is, not only do they release oxytocin, they do so in a very gradated way. They essentially reveal how much we care about people.
And you can measure it by just a blood test then?
I wouldn't put the just in there. So it's really 4 tubes of blood before and after. So, there's a little violence involved to get the data. But having said that, we found now in 10 years of work that in very naturalistic settings, not only in Papua New Guinea, but in churches and synagogues, in Buddhist temples, soldiers marching, there are many ways that we've designed our brains to induce oxytocin release so that we feel connected to others. And the people we're connected to will generally sacrifice a lot to help. And that can be a really beautiful thing. It also means that people we're connected to, we can extract value from those social relationships. That value might just be friendships or even romantic relationships. It can be economic value as well. So, humans are so good at finding value in relationships, and we've shown at the country level that countries that have more trust actually are more prosperous, more economic transactions occur, more people are removed from poverty. You start this kind of virtuous cycle in which good behavior begets good behavior and increases prosperity and even happiness in those countries.
Well, the title of the book is called The Moral Molecule, but I guess I would bring up another question that may be chemically induced, but isn't it also good upbringing, parents, religion, whatever that determines if you're a moral person? I mean, there's got to be that side too, right?
Absolutely. So it's certainly both genes and environment. And in our studies, people with really terrible childhoods, abuse and abandonment, about half of them don't develop the brain system needed to process oxytocin, but about half do. About 1% of the population are psychopaths, and they seem to be just born with bad genes, and they don't feel empathy at all. The oxytocin system is very dysregulated. And the other inhibitor for oxytocin, Doug, is high stress. So, when you're really stressed out, you're not your best self, and stress puts the body in kind of survival mode, and we're less likely to feel comfortable to reach out to other people. So there are times in which, we're not always at our best. But again, having said that, I think that the book gives us a language or a lens to understand the people around us. So instead of saying, my wife was such a jerk to me today and she's a terrible person, I can say, oh, you know what? She's probably having a really bad day because normally she's a sweetheart. And so what does she need from me? I don't need to yell back at her because she's having a bad day. She needs a little more attention, a little more touch, a hug, someone to be present and listen. And so I think it gives us, a richer sense of how the people are behaving around us and even ourselves.
You talk about giving, I think, 8 hugs a day can train the brain. So, I mean, not only is it a physical thing that, it's nice to do, but it also helps release this chemical, right?
It does. You can release that in the person around you. So your prescription today from Dr. Love is 8 hugs a day, and then the people around you will be happier. They're going to give it back to you. And that ain't so bad, right?
Not bad. Well, it depends who you're hugging, though. But yeah, not bad. now, Ken, Doctor, do men have less of this? Since obviously women are, when they give birth, do men have less of this chemical in their brain, or is it just there and more hidden?
I didn't want to believe that there were gender differences, but the data beat me in the head. So every study we've done, literally, women release more oxytocin than men, and they're subsequently more trustworthy, more generous, more compassionate. So now we know why women are nicer than men. And actually, testosterone is a potent oxytocin inhibitor. So particularly young men have to work a little harder to connect to others around them because they're kind of testosterone poisoned. You and I can, admit to that when we were teenagers.
Sure.
But as you age, your testosterone falls. When you're in a committed relationship, your testosterone falls. When you have children, your testosterone falls. And so you're able to kind of bring out this nurturing side that can help sustain relationships. And probably we get a little smarter as we get older, too, don't you think?
I think so. I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, really, it's a fascinating topic. I know we have limited time today, but the name of the book is The Moral Molecule, The Source of Love and Prosperity. We've been talking with Dr. Paul J. Zak today. Paul, give it a website. People get a hold of the book or get a hold of you if they like.
Absolutely. Moralmolecule.com. A lot of fun stuff you can do on there. You can check your own connection factor and find out more about the book.
Great. Paul, pleasure to talk to you. Look forward to hopefully doing it again down the road. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.